Good morning to everybody. How you doing? Hope all's well. Keep up the beautiful work. Be'ezrat Hashem, Yitbarach v'Yitromam. The sun is starting to peek through. Be'ezrat Hashem, the birds are chirping, even though it's a little chilly out there. I hope we all made Birkat Ilanot. I hope we're keeping our eyes open for the moon at night for Birkat Halevana. This is the month where Hashem showed Moshe the month. He said, Kazer Ha'ev Kadesh. This is how the moon should be when you make Rosh Chodesh. And it was, excuse me, in the month of Nisan. That's why we read Parashat HaChodesh. HaChodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim. So try to keep your eyes open even more than usual. If someone's flying, try to say it before, but if not, then say it where you are. Just be safe and come back safely. And we hope we will all go on wings of eagles to Yerushalayim Habnuyah. And now, Baruch Hashem, B'lei Nara, every kid in Magan knows the story, and we have to say the story till it's coming out of the wazoo. That's what Pesach's all about. Just like you can't have Pesach without Bartons, just like you can't have Pesach without a Maxwell House Haggadah, even though they don't make them. But God bless my grandma, she got 3 million in the old days, so we still have about another 2 million of them. God bless. And of course, the Barton's Haggadah, we had nightmares from the Yesahara's picture in that Haggadah Shel Pesach. Long story short, we have traditions for Pesach, and we have to say the Uncle Albert story. Inshallah, he should rest in peace. Avraham ben Rachel, Be'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach. It's a story that the more I say it, the more I have to embed it in my heart and soul, because Baruch Hashem, they do make them like they used to, but back then they made a little more better than they have today in the generation. But the new generation is great, and that's because the old generation paved the roads, and now we could all drive on those highways, smooth sailing. Be'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach. Short story long. Before anyone listening to this class was born, in the 70s, there used to be a style to wear white suits and black shirts, John Travolta style. Hello, we wear black suits and white shirts. Some people like to wear different funky suits, but each to their own. It's not a real shul until you got a couple of people who dress a little, how you doing, different. But short story long, God bless. I always bring up my grandma. She should rest in peace as well. She put out a table longer than the dinya, Baruch Hashem, and she invited the whole dinya, Baruch Hashem. She cooked seder for 60 people. I said it once, I'll say it a gazillion times. She made seder lunch for 60 people, mashallah. And she didn't bring a housekeeper into the house. I don't trust those haramiyeh for nothing. And when the younger generation brought the chedameh, when they came for the seder to help clean up, etc., she would check those pocketbooks and to make sure no one stole any mothballs or no one stole any silverware from that was the old school. She never ever bought a ready-made kibbeh bowl. Even the woman, God bless, who cooked today, many of them buy the kibbeh bowls. She grew her own grape leaves in the backyard. Imagine, you have to clean it very well and for bugs and make sure there's no bugs in them. But grape leaves are a roughie. Today we have them already in the liquid in the jar, so it's not a problem with bugs. As a matter of fact, one holiday night, it was after the Seder. I said this last year, I'll say it again. I was a little kid. It was 3 a.m. I had the cough or something, and then I was coming down to get a drink 3 in the morning. All the men in the tri-state area are snoring. You think it's easy to echo that much and to have 4 cups of wine. And God bless the women. They work so hard to make it happen. And I see my grandma, 3 a.m., setting the table for lunch the next day. She just made seder for 60 people. She made about 1,000 kibbeh torpedoes without exaggerating. She made darker ones, ebony and ivory. She made for shmura people. She made for non-shmura people. And even the shmura people, when no one was looking, would take from the other ones because they tasted even better, because there's an eruv, so they were able to eat the non-shmura. But anyway, God bless her. And I see her setting the table. I'm like, Grandma, what are you doing? You just worked so hard, and you're setting the table now for lunch. Go to sleep and you'll set it tomorrow. And she says, I can't set it tomorrow. We have Rabbi Hecht's speech in the Knis in Sha'arei Sion. So not only did she do all that, but she went also to Sha'arei Sion to go pray and to hear the rabbi's speech. God bless. Long story short, we're on a table and Uncle Albert's there with a brand new white suit for the holiday. And Baruch Hashem, one of the family members, not to mention any names, for $29.99 plus tax, we could let the cat out of the bag. But you know what? We're going to put tariffs on that too. Make it $59.99 plus tax. Long story short again. One of the little kids who was in kindergarten, first grade, they never practiced leaning and drinking at the same time. And he learned in school you need 4 cups. He thought you put 4 cups into one huge Jahash cup. And now Uncle Albert sitting on that kid's left side, and the kid, grandpa says, Savri Maranan, L'chaim, More Pri HaGefen, and Baruch Hashem, we finished the Beracha Mekadesh, HaShabbat, Yisrael, VaZemanim, and this year we don't say Shabbat, and you always have that aunt, we always have to say this too, there's always that aunt that has to tell everyone, don't forget to lean. It looks like the kids, when they go to the bowling alley and the ball starts to go into the gutter, they start doing the hula dance, thinking that it's going to make the ball go to the middle of the lane. Anyway, everyone's reminding everyone to lean, and Baruch Hashem, he has a super gulp size of grape juice. He leans to the left, Hazit. No grape juice went into his mouth. No grape juice went on the floor. No grape juice went on Uncle Albert's black shirt. Everything went on that white suit. I don't know how he got every drop on the white suit. And the kid gets up shaking for his life. In the old days, 70s, 80s, the adults were able to beat up the kids no problem. It was a dime a dozen. You had the older cousins beating up kids. In shul, they beat up kids. Forget of it. There used to be a kid that used to play WWF in shul and just jump off chairs and jump on people. So the young kids knew that the adults could beat up a kid no problem. And he literally, that little kid was shaking and shaking and scared for his life. What is Uncle Albert going to do? Allah Shalom. And Uncle Albert takes the kid, he hugs the kid, and he says, why are you scared? Why are you shaking? Do you really think I am going to yell at you? You think I'm going to hit you? Is a suit more important than a kid's feelings? That story happened 1,000,000 years ago, and we remember it vividly. Why do we remember it vividly? Because that's true greatness. Babe Ruth hits a grand slam and everyone's oohing and ahhing. This is a move that's a gazillion times greater in Hashem's eyes than everybody's eyes. Because at a moment of truth, when you want to get angry at that second, you can't control it. You don't want to get angry, but human nature is we have reflexes, and all of a sudden something like that happens, you're going to yell, you're going to scream, etc. And what happened? He ended up being cool, calm, collected. He hugs the kid, and that's why we will never ever forget it. With that being said, there's a question that's asked in Mitzrayim with the frogs. We know it says Sephardeim, and it also says Sephardea, and our rabbis tell us Sephardeia is one big frog. Sephardeim were a bunch of little ones running around and going everywhere. As we know, they went into their bowels, they went into their mouths, they went into their food, they were everywhere. And we know the ones that went into the oven, while the ovens went on, Hashem let them live because they were giving up their life for Hashem. So Hashem said you will live, and it's a whole long story that comes out of it, but long story short, regarding the frogs, every time they hit the big huge frog, thousands of frogs were shooting out. And now that thousands of frogs are shooting out, you would think anyone in their right mind. So after you hit it once, twice, three times, that's it. You're not going to hit it anymore because look what's going on. If someone sees that every time they touch something, there's an electric current, so they're not going to touch it anymore. Why in heaven's name did the Egyptians keep hitting the big frog, even though it was making their life more miserable? And the stipler, Alava Shalom, Rav Chaim Kanievsky's father, Rabbi Yaakov Yisrael Kanievsky, Alava Shalom, he writes, it's all about kaas, it's all about anger. Because when people do not control their anger when they're younger, it snowballs and it gets worse and worse. And these guys were so angry that they kept hitting, not thinking. Someone who's angry breaks lalik vases, Shema Yisrael. Breaks families, Shema Yisrael. Who knows what happens? But when we do things calm, when we don't lose ourselves like Uncle Albert, that's what makes things Be'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach. And Hashem knows how hard it is. A person who's about to get angry and they hold it in and they don't get upset, they can ask for whatever they want. And there's true stories where these things happen. I gave a speech on the subject a couple of summers ago, how when we hold ourselves back, when someone says something to you, you keep quiet. Of course, there are times we have to we can't let things go. But of course, most of the time you have friends, you have things, whatever it might be, someone might say something, so we let it go. And I gave a speech on the matter. A friend of mine, that thank you Hashem, he's successful, and Baruch Hashem, he has a lot of friends, and he went to a huge dinner function item. And whatever happened. A guy comes over to him and starts bothering him, whatever, and he let it go. But then when the rabbi got up to speak and it was silent in the room, for some reason, the fellow embarrassed him in front of the entire room of people. And everyone was taken aback, like there's a place and a time for everything, but this is not the place, this is not the time. And what happened was he got embarrassed and he was ready to fight back, as they say, roast him back. He got roasted, now it's time for him, but he remembered the speech and he decided to keep quiet and put it to the test. He heard that the Gemara says you're allowed to ask for anything at that moment, yalla, he asked. Now we don't judge everyone on the spur of the moment. Who knows what we would ask for, right? But he asked for $1 million in sales the next day. Not bad. That helps pay for the Uber Eats for a couple of nights. Be'ezrat Hashem, that's without the tip. With the tip, we got to do it again. Guy one time, not Hazi, Shalom Beracha for everyone, he won the Mega Millions. Nice. So they asked him, what are you going to do? I'm going to pay the tuition. They said, what about the rest? He says, I hope to win again and pay the rest of the tuition. So this guy, on the spur of the moment, it's milliseconds we're talking about, he asked for $1 million in sales the next day. He would have asked for the Mashiach, he would have asked for the hostages, for the soldiers, for Am Yisrael to have peace, but that was what he thought of. The next day he goes to work, he forgot about it. At about 4 o'clock, he says, hey, the day's almost over. And yesterday I said I want $1 million in sales. And look, it didn't come. 4 o'clock, Mafi, that's it. So the Gemara is nice Gemara, but I'm sure there's a couple of clauses in the fine print and it ain't happening. He goes to his email and he sees an $850 order in the email, $850,000 order in the email. Not bad, not bad. Pretty close, but still not the cool mill. And then he opens another email and there's $880,000 sale as well. So he did have $1 million in sales. The first thing a Jewish guy does when he sees that is, why did I only ask for $1 million? Why didn't I ask for that? Why didn't I ask for that? But whatever it is, he asked for it, and Baruch Hashem, he got it. But the point is not the million. The point is that's also a point. You ask Hashem for something and you get it, you publicize it, you thank Hashem, you say Mizmor LeTodah. Of course, that's a beautiful thing. But also, the point is We have to learn from Uncle Albert not to lose ourselves and be immature and be silly and etc. We have to be real men. A real man is someone who could control his anger. For example, when the kids leave the door open and it's freezing outside for a half hour, heck yeah, because they're this, because of that. So we say, please close the door. And after the thousandth time, which it does happen, then maybe you could get a little more stern. But no losing ourselves and breaking things, etc. So that's a story. We can't talk about Pesach without mentioning the story of Uncle Albert. He should rest in peace. And now for our featured presentation, the night of the Seder, Be'ezrat Hashem Itbarach. Number one, we have Kadesh, which is Kiddush. Hamavadia brings down a great question. We remember the Maror because they embittered our lives. We remember with the salt water the tears that we cried. We remember the mud and the cement that we had to make the bricks out of with the haroset. It sounds like everything we're remembering is for the negative. Hello, when we left Egypt, we left with a ton of money and beracha and happiness. What happened to that? How come we don't remember that? And Hamadia says we do. That's why we're supposed to wear our finest clothing. That's why we're supposed to use our finest dishes, our finest silverware, because we are like kings on that night. And yes, that's why we lean. Number one, when you lean, do not lean on your own leg, your own thigh. Don't put your item here and then lean like that. That's a sign of mourning. You could lean on your friend. You could also sing the song Lean on Me, right? Just don't make sure he's not wearing a white suit and make sure to practice drinking and leaning at the same time. As we already know, and the kids in school, mashallah. By the way, did you ever notice why they already send the tuition for next year right after Passover? The answer is because that's when all the parents see, you know what, the school did good. He knows all the songs, she knows all the things, the halachot. You know what? It's worth the money. Aha! And then the bills come out for next year. Hit the iron while it's hot. But mashallah, how all the beautiful children get involved. The night is revolved around the children. One of the reasons for hiding the afikoman is to keep them up through the night. One of the reasons we do many things is so that the children should ask. Why this? So the children should ask. Sometimes you have a father that's not so learned. He didn't go to classes like you guys. So that whenever the kid asks something, Dad, why do we do this? So that the children should ask. That's a good answer for everything. Yishtabach shemo la'ad. But number one, we lean to the left because we know the food pipe is on the left and the air pipe is on the right. If you lean to the right, then God forbid the grape juice could or masahas v'halila could go into a person's food pipe and make them choke has v'halila. So we lean to the left. Now there's a Gemara that Hamavadia brings down, and he asks a question. It says in the Gemara, you're not allowed to talk while you eat. And last time I checked, well, people are always eating 24/7, and they're talking as well while they're eating. And then you have people having a meal and they're talking. How are we allowed to talk in the middle of a meal? And the answer is in the old days, they used to recline when they ate. Because they used to lay down, heck yeah, on their side, like the in the movies, Cleopatra and this and that. They're chewing grapes, and since they used to lean, so when a person leans and they talk while they're eating, that can make them choke. But today we sit upright, and therefore you're allowed to talk while you eat. But therefore, when you're leaning and eating, first of all, you're not supposed to talk when you're doing the mitzvah, but also you should be careful not to talk for this reason while you are leaning, Bezrat Hashem. So we lean to the left when we eat, and we eat we drink the 4 cups, and we have the matzah, the korech, and the afikoman. A woman also leans nowadays. However, if a woman forgets to lean, she does not have to repeat the mitzvot, but a man has to if he forgets. So make sure we do not forget. Also, if someone leans to the right, Baruch Hashem, there's always that one flame in Never Never Land on the Hanukkah menorah that's not so bright. Baruch Hashem, Yishtabach Shemo, and they might lean to the right, right? And if a person leans to the right, it's as if they didn't lean. But Hamadiyah does bring down if someone's a lefty and they lean to the right by mistake, halachically, they fulfill their obligation as well. So the purpose of leaning is because we're like a king on the night of Pesach. One of the mitzvot in the Torah is you're not allowed to break a bone in the Korban Pesach. It's a sin, believe it or not. That's why we have 2 korbanot the night of Pesach. That's why Yitzhak Avinu, when he asked Yaakov to go get him 2 animals for 2 dinners, why did he need two? You think Yitzhak cared about food? Yitzhak was givurah. Yitzhak was the epitome of controlling all desire. He didn't have to eat, he didn't have to drink, but he had to fulfill his halachot. And it was the night of Pesach when Yaakov, our great 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 grandpa, got the berachot. It might be a good thing if you have time in between. If you have to hear the Manash Dana, which is beautiful, 27 times because there's 27 kids, mashallah. So take out the Sidur and read V'iten Lecha from the Saturday night section in the Knis, in the Sidur, because that's the time that he got the Beracha. It was Pesach time, Erev Pesach. So he had 2 korbanot. We have the korban Hagigah and the korban Pesach. Why do we have the korban Hagigah? Because you have to be full when you eat the korban Pesach. How come? Because you won't be starving and you won't rip apart the korban Pesach and you won't break a bone. How come? The Torah tells us because the night of Pesach, we are kings. And when you eat the afikoman, you're a king. There's no such a thing as a starving king. I mean, on the holiday, it's going to be a 3-day holiday. And when we go from meal to meal, you won't believe. But we want to eat each meal. It should be with good health and beracha, Bezrat Hashem. But you're not starving in a way that you need to rip apart the bones and start sucking out the in between, right? The king has 97 steaks. He has 97 cowboy steaks and heck yeah, surprise steaks. He doesn't need to sit there nitty gritty taking out in between. So that's why we're not allowed to break the bone because we are like kings the night of Pesach. So just to make sure we have another korban, the korban hagigah, that makes us full, and then we're full. Then we have the Korban Pesach. Today we don't have a Korban Hagigah, so we have an egg. As most people have it right before Shulchan Orech. They have an egg, Zecher leKorban Hagigah. Why an egg? Because at the end of the day, we're a little sad. An egg is not totally a sign of mourning, God forbid, because if it was, then we wouldn't be able to eat on the night of Pesach. But it commemorates a little that it's a sign of mourning. We're mourning that we don't have the Beit HaMikdash. So we have the egg, and then after we have the Shulchan Orech, we have the Afikoman. It is brought down that if someone goes to sleep, of course we have to brush our teeth, of course you have to take care of your hygiene, but if a person has the flavor of Afikoman in his mouth when he goes to sleep, believe it or not, it fixes certain sins that a person might do in their lifetime. You guys have no sins, Baruch Hashem, but people far away might have a couple. But anyway, so we lean because we're kings, and if a person, like we said, a woman by mistake, if she doesn't have to go back, but a man does have to. So we make kadesh. How about yeah? It's another question, and we'll finish with this. We know grammatically, if you have a word that has two segols in it, and when it's at the end of a sentence, or it's It's like an end of a sentence. So pasuk atnach, then we don't say pronounce the word with two segos. The Torah changes it. Shemesh, we'll see shamesh. Kesef to kasef, you'll see at the end of a sentence. When we wake up and we say Birkot Shahar, we know there's no word aved. The word is eved. Eved Ivri, Eved Kanani. So what's a aved? Because it's at the end of a pasuk. Ashkenaz, when they make the beracha, Borei Pri HaGefen, they say gafen, and it seems like they're grammatically correct because it's the end of a pasuk, the end of a sentence, and like we said, it's two segos gefen, it should be gafen. However, the Sephardic tradition is to say Borei Pri HaGefen. Why do we say gefen and not gafen if, like we said, grammatically, technically, you should say gafen? Then there's a couple of answers. The Ben Ish Chaya Leva Shalom answers that when the pasuk says Hita Seora Gefen, and so when we say Borei Pri HaGefen, it's a reference to the Gefen in the pasuk of the seven species of Eretz Israel. And also, Hamavadia answers, people usually don't drink wine by themselves. People drink, you could drink water by yourself, soda, but wine, people don't really drink. You might have a guy going to sleep just to drink it instead of NyQuil, but most people drink wine. That's why there's a beracha, hatov hametiv, when you drink with somebody else wine and you bring an additional wine, then you make hatov hametiv, good to one and good to the other. So also over here, wine you usually drink with somebody. So the amen is always going to be there. And since the amen is there most of the time, so the amen is the last word really of the sentence, and therefore we don't say gafen, we say borei peri ha gefen. We'll stop here for today. I hope everyone has the greatest day. Good things always. Keep up the good work. Besorot tovot, Yeshuot v'nehamot. Happy holiday. And like we said, keep your eyes open for the Lebanat tonight and Birkat Ilanot if you can. And if you're traveling, go safely, come back safely, and make sure to bring the shampoos. Hella, they get big bottles and they drill them to the walls. You got to rip off the whole wall. One guy tried to do that for me. I said, no, I'm just kidding. Dahak, God bless. I still have from Acapulco in the old days. Have the best day. Take care. Love you all. Bye.